Hello everyone, this is Eri, and today I'll be looking at Goetia. Now, I don't really know much about this game, aside from the fact that it is published by Square Enix, but not developed by them. This is actually an indie game and part of the Square Enix's indie game initiative called Square Enix Collective, and I think this was actually one of the first ones published. Now, I've only just started this up and I ran into a couple of issues. As you saw there was a brightness prompt for options, which is kind of nice, but the actual issue I'm running into now is that this is actually running on my second monitor right now instead of my first one. Yes, when it was set to windowed, it actually centered itself in the middle of the extended screen rather than the middle of a monitor, so that's another thing as well. And it looks like I can't modify my resolution. It doesn't higher than this. This may be because it's trying to adhere to the limitations of my second monitor, so I can't set this to 900 or 1080p, unfortunately. This appears to be a simple game, so I'm probably not going to have any major issues playing in windowed. Although I usually don't play in this resolution. In any case, as you saw there isn't really much in the way of options. I'm guessing this is a fairly simple game, graphically speaking, since there aren't any graphical options. It's only sound, effects, and music. These are set to the middle for some reason. But in any case, let's just press start. Sound has a particular importance in Goetia, particularly in certain puzzles. For an optimal experience... okay. That went a bit too quickly, but it doesn't. Is this gravestone? Gotta write down all her thoughts in her journal. How can I write in a journal when I'm dead? Oh well, it's a game, so... let's see here... Okay, a slight interruption there. I decided to quit the game and look at the local files to see if I could do anything more. But it appears that this game is made in Unity, so if I want to modify the resolution settings, I would have to go into the system registry. Anyway, let's take a look at the game proper now. I'm not really sure how to access the journal now. There was some kind of tutorial option there, but now I'm not seeing it. But just purely from looking at this screen, this is just a starting screen, I'm getting the sense that this is actually an adventure game. This particular cross-shaped cursor is actually not something you see anymore, but the oldest types of adventure games used a mouse cursor in the shape of a cross, like this, by holding control. So it's pretty much like any adventure game. Although control is a bit of a weird button to use. I would use tab actually, but that's not a big deal. So it looks like the goal of this game is to explore this castle and investigate the cause of my death, or something like that. Now that I suppose there isn't really much to say when it comes to adventure games, since they are a fairly well explored genre. There are a few variations in the controls here, mainly that there is no default button for an action. There's no default action. This is always going to open a wheel. So that means you only really need the left click. There's no action associated with right click at all. Now, some adventure games have a default action with a left click, the most obvious or the most intelligent one, and the wheel menu is opened with the right click. Now, when I was looking in the local files, it also said I could use a controller, so let's see if I can do anything. And no, I cannot. Another small issue is the fact that I pressed exit game and there was no warning. This actually exited the entire game instead of going to the main menu there. Yeah, I can already see this feeling a bit tedious, since I need to constantly click twice to observe rather than just click once. Yes, that's usually why there's a default action in the left click. And now I have a map. There's a lot of handwriting here, cursive writing. This might be a little difficult if you're not familiar with English. Fields of stone, Naperius. Those are not words I recognize. Unless they're supposed to be demonic references, perhaps? I mean, this is called Eldwitch with the letter W. That's an obvious pun. Malthus is some kind of demon, I think. Since there are only 3 actions here, having this open a menu all the time is definitely my main criticism here. Okay, so that's the purpose of the right click, to leave a possessed object. Oh, what's happening now? Feathers. Someone's here. Or something. I'm not sure if this is because of the resolution, but there are some discrepancies in the font size of the font. So Malthus here appears to have a clearer font. And the Spirit's font is actually a little blurry. And now that's blurry. That's a little weird. I wonder why that lantern is on. I wonder who lit it. Ah, here we are, my first puzzle. Okay, let's see if I have any kind of clue. A, D, E, J, A. So there isn't really much to speak of here, since this is an adventure game. Not that I have anything against adventure games, I actually like them quite a fair bit, but, well, I mean, there isn't really much to say when trying to review an adventure game, because it's quite a tried and true genre. It's really one of the earliest types of games out there, and all I really have to say is that the setting is fairly interesting, I guess. It looks like a fascinating mystery, although as a whole it's fairly muted. A good chunk of the game is dark. The entire game is dark, really, which may lead to some issues of visibility. And some of the controls are a little unintuitive or tedious. You have to click up a little bit too much to observe an object. These may seem like minor criticisms, but well, when you're talking about adventure games, there isn't really much to talk about. You're just on a screen, and you click on things to interact. So the only thing you can really do is try to make that efficient, and also have a compelling story. This is running in Unity, which is probably overkill. And I don't really like the idea of 2D games on Unity, even though the engine itself is easy to make games on. It is a 3D engine first and foremost, so the system requirements are probably higher than they really ought to be if it was running on a different engine. The resolution is a concern. It seems to be adhering to my second monitor, which is a bit smaller, so I can't actually play in full screen, or at least not in full screen on my main 1080p monitor. And yeah, well, I think that's it, really. It's a small indie game, just a simple adventure game. It appears to have a couple of simple gameplay mechanics where you can possess objects and move them around, but aside from that, it seems to be just a fairly stock adventure game. Yes, there are a few technical concerns here, but otherwise, I suppose that's all I have to say. Yeah, this was Goetia, published by Square Enix as part of their indie initiative. Well, I guess that's it. Until next time.